actions we perform with UI elements. And said we are grouping into two sets, input actions and output actions. Look at the input actions and look at the input methods. And I think we all got a glimpse of this, and I hope that shed some light on some of the things we have done before. Now, going further, so today we start by looking at containers. Containers, as the name, name sounds like something that is used to store stuff. So a container in UiPath academic context is a box. So it's a box that holds container is a box that holds the activities that are being performed on the same application. So if I want to rephrase that, I can say a container is a new UiPath dictionary, it's like the topmost level in the sequence of activities that we perform in the same application or the same window, same not program, but the same application. Yeah, I think that word best describes it. So it's topmost level, and it gives extra details of what field is going to be used. So like take, for example, using a type into activity in a container. That container tells us where we're going to be typing into, or what field or what application will be performing our type into activity. Likewise, it helps us also define the scope of a variable. It helps us limit how accessible a variable is, and I guess it can help prevent errors. And lastly, a container can be modified by a user. So we as developers can edit or make changes to a specified container to suit our needs, so that we can change the app it's working on. We can make the container work for multiple types of that app, and so on and so forth. So we can perform modifications. Now, a container is generally created when you perform recordings. By recording, I mean, let's say creating activities that mimic human steps. So recording human steps with human actions, not human steps. Human actions with this person. Recording human actions with activities. Now in UiPath, we have, sorry?
I don't know, it's like your line is breaking. No?
Hello?
Hello, sir.
Your line
is breaking.
My voice is not clear. Or is it that you think it's stopping intermittently? Like stop or something?
Yes.
That's just, I was one stopping. I was doing something more. So I was one stopping intermittently. But then my voice is clear when I speak, right? Hello?
Sir, your voice is loud, but it's breaking in between.
I think it's better now. It's better than before.
Okay, it's breaking. Okay. Is the voice better now?
Yes.
Let's continue. So I defined the container. I hope we all got that definition of a container and like what a container gives us, what capabilities it provides for us as developers. So it specifies the top level UI window where the elements belong, and it gives us details of the button or field to be used. Helps us define scope and can be modified by user. Now in UiPath, there are 5 types of containers. So if you can see on the screen now, there are 5 types of containers. So we have the open application, open browser, attached window, and get active window. Each of these things, when they perform, or they have, let's say, different specific cases where they will be used. Now for the open application, for example, now it helps us launch a specified application, and then you can perform actions with it. So take for example, we want to open an app from scratch, an app that is closed. We would have to indicate in our studio. So this is our open application activity. This is it. So it's that we have to, you can indicate what app you want to use. Like for example, I want to use a Notepad just to show. So now I want to click my Notepad and select it. So now it's like then Notepad. What this thing does now is that anytime you want to work with a Notepad, even if Notepad is closed, this open application. Okay, sorry about that. So for the open application now, saying it launches an application, it's an application, and it allows us to perform multiple tasks, multiple actions within the application. Like if you want to work with our Notepad, for example, just have to indicate it on the screen and what do I want to do, be it type into, be it clicking, or be it, any hotkeys, whatever process we have in store or in our minds, we can perform it. And I said,
So I can't hear you again.
Well, let me please check your recording. I think it's from your end.
Okay. So can you all hear me, or is it just one person?
I can hear you, sir.
I can hear you, sir.
I can hear you.
George, George, I think it's your network, George.
Yeah, you are breaking.
Still breaking. Hello.
So your voice breaking between. I don't think it's just my end, though. I think it's everybody.
No, so far it's just nothing here.
It's clear from here, so maybe it's the network
It's
or something.
Yeah, it's the network on the other side.
Okay.
Okay then. So George, try to go to better reception. Now for
no problem.
So yeah, it allows us to open the application from scratch and then perform actions in it. Now the next type of container we have is Open Browser. Open Browser works with just browsers, as the name would imply. It allows us to open a browser and perform activities within it. But then it allows us to open a browser and then go to a specified URL. So now if we want to open our browser and then maybe navigate to Google, navigate to the UiPath website with the open browser activity, you can see that we have open browser. We have a field that says insert URL. So this is where we would type in our URL as a string. So that means in double quotes. And then it also allows us to select what type of browser we want to use. So in our properties panel, under the input section, now we can choose what browser we have. So depending on what browser you use most, be it Internet Explorer, Firefox, Chrome, Edge, and then custom. Then custom is for other types of browsers that we have on our computer that are not in this list. And then once we have put our URL, we can likewise perform other tasks or other activities in the open browser container. The next type of container we have is the attach window. Now, attach window works similarly to an open application activity, but then the difference is while open application allows us to open an app that's closed because we want to work. This attached browser only works with windows that are open, apps that are open. So if, for example, we're trying to work with a notepad now, like how we did on the open application activity. If we attach a window and then close the window while the activity is still present, you would see that your process would throw an error. And let's see that in action. Let me delete these two. So now we can see that here I used Notepad. I just use a simple type into the Notepad. So fine. When Notepad is on and we run it, it should work without any errors. But once our Notepad is closed, I think you would see that we have taking time, so it's going to use the timeout, so 30 seconds. Don't take too much time. Let's set our timeout here to something quick. 2 seconds, 2000. So let's do that again now. So when it doesn't work, to show the error quicker. 2 seconds, running again. So you can see that you get an error because the window is not open. Unlike for the open application now that I would have opened it from scratch. So you can see the difference. The differences between the two containers, into they perform similar activities. So likewise, we have the attached browser. So the same way we compare the attached browser to the open application is the same way we can liken the open browser to attached browser. The attached browser also allows us to work in browsers, but then the browser has to be open at that point in time. Else we get an error, like we saw earlier for the attached window. And lastly, we have get active window container. This retrieves the currently active window and enables the user to perform multiple actions on it. Now, what that means, retrieving the currently active window is it, I guess it checks for what window is being used or is, I don't want to use but active. What window is being used, I guess. What is being used at that point, and then allows us to perform actions in it. So likewise, let's also see that action. So we want to get active window, and then just want to, let's just use a click. Just to let's click on this. So if we run it now, it would fetch whatever window is active on the desktop. In this case, it's our Chrome. So you can see that it's opened Chrome and then clicked into this part. So this window doesn't give us the chance to specify what window we want to work in. It just looks through all the open windows and picks the most active one or the most recently used one and performs the actions we want to do in that window. The classroom exercise demonstrate how to open browser and open UiPath websites. So I think we didn't demonstrate how to. Yes.
Yeah, sorry, sir. Sorry for interrupting. From looking at the 5 containers that you just explained now. So I was. Can you hear me? Okay, so I was trying to look at your studio, trying to confirm the design experience. Can you hear me, sir?
I can hear you.
Okay, so I was trying to look at the studio that you are using. So I was trying to confirm the design experience. So I noticed that all these containers are used in the classic experience. So, and I already saw, I think I saw screen scraping. So I was sure that was classic. So I just want to confirm that from what I see, I feel like the counterpart of all these containers, which is, in the modern experience, which is the use application / browser activity or container. So that one, I feel it just holds all this open attack because the use application will open. It can open application, it can open browser, whether it's closed or open, it can open it, whether it's active or not, it can open it from what type. But we are used to the modern ones, like we are used to, use application container. Did you get my point, sir?
Yes, because yeah, what's your point? Yeah, so as being has said, right? It's being right. Yes, as being has said. So what you're working because we designed this course now to be used with classic activities. That's why the classic design experience. That's why this now. But for those in modern or for those who want to use modern experience, yes, they also have it also has its counterparts activities, like where we would have to normally attach window open window. Basically, all these things. I think modern has one activity for it. That's the use application / browser. So let's look at how it works. Browser. Now this one basically does, it's a combination of everything. So it can open. Remember I said attached window now can't be used when window is not open, then open application can be used when it's not open. Now this one, for those in modern experience, does the two functions combined. So anytime you use it, if you're in modern or if you feel like you want to use the modern, or if you're using the modern, this will be your own go-to containers, not the 5 we said earlier. And then you just have to create it. And don't worry about it being open or not. If it's not going to open, and if it's open to it will navigate to that container. But then all in all, they perform the same. They perform the same uses. They have the same functions. So it doesn't matter what design experience you're using. Okay, so continuing. So we looked at these five containers and how or what they do. If I wanted to demonstrate how to open a browser and navigate to the UiPath website. So first thing we'll do is just to hello? The first thing we'll do is open our use browser activity. So we're opening browser, and then we get a link or a space, a field to put our URL. So you want to go to the UiPath website, that will be uipath.com. www.uipath.com. And then let's select what browser we want to use. So because I want to use Chrome, I would select Chrome. So if you're using Edge, to pick Edge, Firefox, or whatever you'll be using. And then if you run it, you would see that it would open another browser, and then navigate to the UiPath website. So we can see how that works. Okay, so moving on again. Look at this. So this same thing is in our open browser. So you can do that in your own space. So remember, I said containers are actually generated when we perform recording, as converting user actions into UiPath activities. The UiPath Studio allows us or gives us some tools, or in this case, some wizards that allow us to, make capturing of these user actions, make it quicker and more seamless. So instead of we trying to do it individually, like saying create a typing tool because we want to type into something, UiPath allows us to select or use a tool, a recording tool, to seamlessly convert those user actions into sequences of activities. And we have 6 types of recorders. We have the basic desktop, web, image, native Citrix, and computer vision. Now, recording is, as I said before, converting user actions into sequences. Now, these actions can be recorded in a varying number of ways. So we have text typing, which we have using drop-down lists. We have performing clicks, so can be left click or right click, then checking boxes. And UiPath Studio, we can and that person mute themselves. We can record all these actions as the user performs them on our computer. Now the recording wizard has some shortcuts also that helps us while we are trying to record said actions. And some of the shortcuts include F2, which pauses the recording. So I think we have to be for us now to use F2 before. When we're trying to select something and we want to navigate to the item first, we would use F2 to pause it. Then we have escape. Escape is going to exit the recording. Likewise, right-clicking would exit the recording. Now, we have 6 recording types: basic recording, desktop recording, web recording, image, native Citrix, and computer vision. Each of these recording types have their specific features. Now, basic recording, it generates a full selector for each activity and then creates no container. So that means for a no container. Okay, so basic recording. Because we don't really understand the concept of full selector at this point, because a full selector is something we're still looking at further down in this lesson. But a full selector, just for us to have an idea, is like actually selector for us to have an idea is the path or the hierarchy which you would use to access a UI element on a screen. So it's a path that the UiPath Studio uses to access an element. And a full selector is, one that contains the full path or the whole path to get from the UI element to the root. So now basic recording creates a full selector. That is, it creates the full path for our studio or our robot to access any element for the activity, and does not create any container. While the desktop recording, now which is suitable for desktop apps, actually it doesn't create a full selector, so it creates partial selectors and creates a container. So we can see that those two perform similarly, but one takes it a step further. That is, the basic recording takes it a step further by making a full selector, while the desktop recording gives us partial selectors and containers. Next, we have web recording, which is designed for recording in web apps and browsers. Like desktop recording, it also creates containers, and it uses the simulate type clicking method by default. Another recording type we have is the image recording. Image recording is used in virtual environments. So for those who be using their UiPath Studio on virtual machines, you would have to use image recording. And image recording only works with, it works with images as the name implies. It works with images, and it can also work with text, but works mainly with images, so text and keyboard automation. And likewise, in that one we have is the native recording or Citrix. This is used for Citrix environments. It's like the desktop recording now, but for Citrix environment. So everything desktop recording does the same thing, but then in a Citrix environment. And lastly, we have computer vision recording. This computer vision, it is used to record actions and activities that I want to perform. So unlike other recording types that create selectors for us to access the UI elements, the computer vision works by just recording the whole screen. So it records every element on the screen and then knows based on what the user has performed in the recording wizard. It identifies what element the user clicked based on the position on the screen or the position on the screen of elements, and then generates workflows based on those element positions with computer vision activities. So before we first looking at these three recording types: basic desktop and web recording, and you'll be comparing, and you also perform some activities and see how they perform or how different their usages or their uses are. Now for basic, we'll be comparing basic recording and desktop recording. The basic recording is faster, it's slower than desktop recording because it doesn't use containers, so it doesn't group all the activities into one place. Remember, a container is a box that is used to identify what application will be making our activities in. So because this one does not have a container, it's going to perform actions slower than desktop recording, which has containers. Then second difference is that basic recording generates full selectors, while desktop recording does not. So I told us what selectors are earlier. And yes. So let's now look at the next three recording types that we have: the image, native citrix, and then computer vision recording. The image recording is used to record visualized environments such as VNC, virtual machines, and Citrix for image, text, and keyboard automation. Native Citrix is used in automation projects, and it is the equivalent of desktop recording for Citrix environment. And likewise, lastly, computer vision recording is used to visually identify all elements. So it works on optics, looks at what is on the screen and visually identifies them, rather than relying on selectors or images, and it's suitable for automatically generating workflows that use computer vision activities. Okay, so now our recording wizard, which is the tool UiPath provides for us to perform any of these recording types on our UiPath Studio, consists of three components: the save and exit. So save and exit would save the recording. This is our recording wizard here. On the design ribbon, beside the screen scraping and data scraping, we have our recording. So I guess we can see the three, or the 1, 2, 3, 4, the 6 types of recordings we have. And then, so the recording wizard, this is the recording wizard now. So we can see the elements or the features that it possesses. Firstly, it has a save and exit button, which just saves a recording for us, and then exits the recording, or the recording wizard, then creates the workflow. Likewise, you have the recording button. This recording starts, or it signals the user that you want to start the recording process. And then we have the manual recording actions. So these are actions that users can select to generate single activities that they would want to use during their recording process. Like
various type of recording. I don't have them on my own.
You don't have.
What I can see is just an app and a web recording, and then a computer vision.
Yes, we do that for people on modern experience.
Okay, I should go to modern experience.
So on modern experience now, if you're on modern experience, you will just see app/window and computer vision. App/web, sorry, not the computer vision.
Okay, so
So just like the containers and how in modern you had just one container that does the work of four
everything.
of them. Likewise in modern now, the app/web does the job of the basic desktop web
Okay.
web recording. So instead of having those three, or instead of having them separated into specific ones we would like to use, this modern just compile them into one recording type. And then for the other ones, even for the tricks and computer vision, we have computer vision on what's it called, on the modern activity. So what we are working on now in the course of this class, what we'll be using is the classic experience. So it's advisable for everyone to switch to classic if you want to follow along with whatever we'll be doing. And I guess we all know how to switch from modern to classic. For those that don't, I will do it now. So please pay attention. And so first of all, we'd go to our project panel. So beside at the bottom left part of the screen, click on project, then settings, and then switch this between modern and classic. So turning it off, leave it on classic. That's what we should all do for those who haven't done that already. Okay, so going back to our lecture, we talked about the parts. So we have the manual recording actions. These allow us to manually create actions that users would likely perform. So actions like starting an app, performing a click, typing into a field, copying text or copying things, accessing an element, or text or an image. So accessing elements, text or images. Let's look at all these components in detail. The Start app and Open browser actions enable users to open an app or browser, as well as close them by pointing and clicking on them. So Start app is available in basic and desktop recorders, while the Open browser is available in web recorder. So if you open a desktop or basic recorders, you will see Start app and close app, while if you open a web recording, you will see Open browser, close browser, and also see Close tab, which closes a specific tab in the browser we are using. So the next thing we have the click manual action, which allows us to simulate clicking on things. So we know, or would have we in course of clicking on things on the internet, there are three basic activities we can perform with a click. We might click to access something, so click to open, that's a basic click. Then likewise, you might click to select an item. So take, for example, we have a text I want to select by clicking it, or we have a drop-down menu. I want to select something from the menu. We can do that also. And lastly, we can click to check a box or a checkbox. So under this click manual action, we can specify what type of click we want to perform and select it in our recording wizard and create the appropriate activity in the designer panel. Next, we have the type manual action, which tells us, or which allows us to do one of two things. We can either choose to type some text into a field, and that would generate a type into activity, or you can choose to send hotkeys. The hotkeys are a special combination of keys that perform, that are like shortcuts to performing actions. So we can either send hotkey or type with the type manual action, and then we would create necessary activities in the design panel. Next, we have the copy. Now, copy enables us to copy selected text from any application or browser we are working in, and it's available in basic desktop, web, and native Citrix recorders. Now, copying in these recorders allows us to perform different types of actions. So in the basic desktop recorders, under copy, we can copy text, which is the basic thing, and then we can perform screen scraping. So screen scraping, as we did earlier, is just to extract information from elements that are on our screen. While in the web recording, we can perform copying and data scraping. But data scraping now allows us to extract data from extract things from structured data. And as with the other manual actions, it also creates the necessary activity in the workflow. Next, we have the elements. Element allows us to perform actions on elements. So these actions include looking for, all these actions are things like looking for the elements, so locating an element, or waiting for the element to vanish or appear. And it's available in all recorders apart from computer vision recorder. And likewise, the other one also has its own drop-down menu, which in this case is the same for every recorder. So it has the mouse elements that allows us to simulate mouse movements from elements. It has the keyboard elements, which enables us to perform keyboard actions for elements. Likewise, we have control elements, find elements, and then the window elements. Next, we have text. Text allows the user to select or hover over text, and it's also available in all recorders apart from the computer vision recorder. And it has its own drop-down menu again, as you can see: mouse, scrape, copy text, set text, select and copy. Next manual action we have is image, that enables users to work with images. And like the previous two, it's available in all recorders apart from computer vision. And it has its own drop-down menu again, which includes mouse. So it allows us to simulate mouse actions such as clicking or hovering over images. It allows us to also find images on our screen or on our UI environment. And it allows us to check if an image has vanished. So it's the wait image vanish activity. So that's the whole gist of the recording the whole gist of the recording wizard. Now, remember, now the activities we looked at were mainly for the desktop, basic, and web recording, apart from the ones that were generalized to all recording types. So for things like element, text, and image, those ones appear for everyone apart from computer vision. Then the first three actions were mainly for desktop, basic, and web. Now we have other recorders like the image recorder, which has its own specific actions that are specific to it. So while for the previous one we had the stats, we had the click, type, and copy. For image recorder now, that will be replaced with click image, click text. So we still have the same type. Then select and copy. Copy is replaced with select and copy, and screen scraping. And they perform similar activities that they explained earlier, as the name would imply, but then work based on us working on images. And lastly, we have some activities that are also specific to the computer vision recorder. So computer vision recorder has, because of the nature of how it works, it has actions that we can only perform, or that actions that it can readily accept, because it doesn't work on the same principle as the previous two. Doesn't work with selectors like the other two, or the other not two, but then the other 5. But now for computer vision, we have refresh, which is used when the target window changes and needs to be sent to the computer vision server. So it refreshes the target window. Next, we have the change application, which enables the user to switch between automating different applications. Has the click relative. We have the click. It enables us to click any UI element. And it can also be set as an anchor. Then we have the get text, which extracts text from these activities, and then the cover. And then you have to know that when you use all these manual actions in manual recorder, we are going to be creating computer vision activities. So when we are using something like get, like a type now, or click relative, we will not be using the basic, or not using the normal typing to activity, or the normal click activity. We'll be using the computer vision activity. So if you look at, you can see my screen now. I check type into, you can see we have two types, or two type into activities. We have the CV, which is for computer vision, and then we have the UI automation application, as the basic type into. Okay, now there's an exercise for us to perform. We want to build a workflow now using the web recorder and UiPath Studio, and then sign into the UiPath website. Ask the user for their email address and password. Open the sign-in page of the UiPath website and sign to the website using the user's credentials. Okay, now so let's all build. Let's all build this process. So the first step now is to use input dialog activities, because we want to get the user's email and password. In this case, we just use any random email and password because there's no account on that website per se. So let's head to our studio and let's build together. So the first thing, input dialog. Supposed to use two of those. So input dialog, and we want to get the username. So we'll create the title, username, and the label would be enter your username, then text box, then create a variable here to store it. Let's store it as username. Then for the next one also, you're collecting the password. Let's get password, input label, your password, and then text also with an argument for this. We create a variable for this non-argument. Create variable and let's call it password. Then next thing is to open a browser. So use our open browser application. For us in classic, for those in modern, use the use browser / application activity. So open browser. And navigate to www.uipath.com. The next thing is to use the web recorder in UiPath Studio to try and click. So click the try UiPath free button, click the sign in, type in the email address, and click on the sign in button. Okay, so we're going to use a recorder, so web recorder. Open browser, opening Chrome. I want to navigate to www.uipath. Okay. Oh, actually, let's not do that. So let's delete that. Let's leave that. Let's start over again. So we're going to use our web recorder. First thing we want to do is open the browser. Let's open Chrome and then navigate to www.uipath.com. Okay. UiPath.com. This has to be on that page. Then the next thing we want to do is click on try UiPath for free. So click on this. Then the next thing that will happen is take us to this page. Okay, because I'm logged in, that's why it's doing this. Take us to a login page. UiPath.com. Try UiPath for free. So you should have something like this if you have not logged in before. Now we want to type into this, type our email or username in this case. And password again, type to the password field. I think the next step is to click on the sign in button. So then create another click and click on this. So those are the steps that we would have created initially. Then let's go back to our studio and then input our, so we can save and edit.
Sorry, did you click the record button?
No, I did not use the record, but I was doing it manually. I was supposed to do it. I use the manual, then you do the recording to see how the recording also works. So I play the steps individually first. So I clicked and clicked on type into then other things like that. So that you can see it creates the browser, goes to UiPath, and does the other things we need to do. So an easier way to do all that would have been to use the recording option now. It would look at the steps we would perform and then convert those steps into activities. So now let's go back again to web recording. And then this time let's record. So the first thing I want to record. Sorry. Let me go back to the UiPath homepage. So you can follow the steps. Then so I'm on UiPath homepage now. Once I record now, anything I do gets converted into the internal activity in the studio panel. So once I click on try UiPath, it does that, saves it, converts it to an activity. Then let's wait for it to load. The next thing, we can click on sign in, saves that again, and it converts it into an activity, sign it to another account, and continue with email. And then we can click, then type. Let's say my email is rpa@mymac.academy.tech. Do that. Then type in my password also, which could be automation is the future. Then click on sign in. And then since we are done, we would just either press escape or right click. So once we are done with the steps you want to record, save it, and likewise you can say again that it creates those steps automatically, the activities. So we created a click for when we click the UiPath, the try for free, click the sign in, click the sign in again, then every step we needed to perform. And therefore, this is like this, so we need to put our inputs. We can just replace it with our password. Username, so this is username. And this will be password. My password. This will be password. So I see how the recorder makes creating automations easier and quicker. Instead of having to individually type in those things or create the activities one by one, you can just record the actions, and then UiPath, based on activity it has, would convert into the necessary sequence that perform that activity or that task. So were we all able to do that?
Yeah, I could use the one before the recording, but the fact that I've been logged in, so as far as I'm using that my account, like I will just have to pick my Google account. Yeah.
You can. It doesn't have to be that same process, but you understand how it works and how to use it
exactly.
to do other things too. So any that apart from Benga, who else was able to do it?
Yeah, I was able to do so.
From
Yeah.
the input dialog.
Sorry?
I said I couldn't finish the process from the input dialog. I didn't get the next activity you added under the second input dialog.
We just use the web browser from there. Oh, sorry, we use the web browser. Just
Sir, please, can you go through it a bit, just once, please?
so for the web browser that we use now, web browser just based what steps you want to do. So once you have put your input dialog on to, just use your web browser and then perform those steps you want to perform. The steps you wanted to do were logging in. So once we had gone to our web browser and then clicked on record, just work as we would have worked normally. So you wanted to click, then wait for it to load, then perform your next step, and so on and so forth. And I hope all got that. Hello? Hello?
But sir, I don't have this web browser in my own activities. I don't have this. I don't have web browser in my own activities.
There's no web browser is not in your activities. It's not meant to be in your activities in the first place. If you were, I said it's going to be our recorder. It's going to be on our design panel. Click on recording and click on web. There's a web recording wizard.
Thank you, sir. Sorry, I just no.
Click on the design panel on this top part, then recording. If you have recording, if you don't have recording, you have to switch to classic. So I trust that you have to switch to classic experience. That's you just basically repeat the same and then just see how UiPath would convert those steps into action. We can, like you can see, you can see how recorders make automation easier by just streamlining the steps and or just watching our steps and then converting those steps into necessary activities. Okay. Now look at this. So have you all done this before we move to the next thing for today?
Yeah, my UiPath studio shut down.
Okay. Then open it again.
I'm working on it now.
Okay, yeah, all right then. Then any other, I guess. Let's give it 2 minutes. So yeah, 2 minutes. So when it's 10 minutes past, sorry, 11 minutes past 9. If you would continue again, we continue with selectors. And selectors proper, we'll see what selectors are and how we can utilize them in our processes.
Sorry, sir. Considering how fluid using using automatic is, I don't understand why would anybody want to use the manual process.
So it allows you to perform more complex the manual ones then can perform complex actions. So the things like when you want to perform data manipulation there's something another complex task. Once you do that, I mean you can do the basic part, you open the app and everything. When you put the manual it is more complex.
Okay.
Complex solution. All right.
Sorry, sir. I didn't get that explanation. Everything was breaking and echoing.
I said the recorders they make automating processes much easier. But then not the disadvantage, but then the downside that you can't perform more complex things in the recorders. So for things like data manipulation, things like performing one action on multiple, or performing the same action on multiple windows. Now, things like that, it's more easier to, or it's much easier rather, to do those things individually where you can fine tune your instructions or fine tune your settings. So the long and short of it is that the recorders are good, but then perform more complex activities. You need to, or you would likely need to input those activities manually. So it's all about finding a balance, I guess. Balance between recording the things you can record and doing the complex ones by doing them manually. I mean, you get that fit.
Excuse me, sir.
What is like created a variable for the password. Yes, Robert.
When you for this last series of steps, which the PDF said click the try UiPath button. Are we supposed to click on the web on the click? Sorry, it is going to be a lot of clicking. Should we click?
I did the 2 ways. The easier way now would be to use your recorder. So just record, then just follow those steps. You have to convert those steps into activities. So when you say click, just click on it in your when you activate your recorder. So when you click on the record button first, and it's on this button first, record, then you can now perform all those clicks, all those typing and everything.
All right.
Hello, sir. Hello, sir. I'm trying to do mine, but it's telling me I should install UiPath browser extension for Chrome.
Yeah, so we covered that in some classes. We covered that last 2 weeks. So you need to go to your Chrome extension store and then install UiPath extension. I think you now have to go to your Chrome extension store.
Yes, and that's good.
And just install UiPath automation. What they call UiPath web automation, I think. So just search for it and you will find install that there. Then Benga.
Yeah, sorry, sir. I I don't know if this is the best time to ask this question, but it also has to do with the container. While I was trying to build some automation, I think earlier today, so I noticed the properties of that. I think I was using modern, so it was use application. Yeah, use application. So there is this input element and output element. I'm not sure what that really is. So I just want to ask. Yes, sir.
Input element, RPA elements for use application.
Yes, sir.
Let's see. Application. Do I have that right on the top? On application browser. So inputs, input element, RPA elements. Input elements, the UI elements, that the activity be executed on. Input element is elements with the UI element. So the input elements thus allows us to select what UI element to perform tasks on. You get that? So like if you want to perform type into now on an element, like you would pass the element into an argument into this argument. But it has elements here as a variable, and then your part would locate the elements based on, I think you're going to use your selector now in this case. You're going to locate that element, then perform whatever actions. Well, for the output element is if you want to transfer an element, or we want to use an output from a UI element in a different activity. So you store the element in a variable here, and then you can use that variable that places that you want to use them. Does that make sense, Benga?
Okay, sir. Okay, that means for the output element, can we just say probably we are trying to get I don't know, maybe trying to get a text or an image or something from that the UI element. If we just get that and save it, probably just save it in a variable or an argument, is it the same effect like putting it in the output element too, sir?
No, so the output element it's not the text now, but it's the whole being of the element. So things like its position, its select, its attributes,
Okay.
everything will be stored in that, what they call it, that variable that you have created here, as opposed to you just getting the text and storing text in a variable. So it's more encompassing than storing just the text.
Okay. Because I actually used it for a particular automation, and it actually worked. So although I didn't do it that way, I think it was the old URL element, just like you said, and actually worked. So I just wanted to confirm. Thank you, sir.
All right. I said, then I trust we've all been able to make use of the web.
Not like this now.
Kingsley.
Sorry.
Yes, you've all been able to make use of the web recording. Let's do one more. Let's use let's see how the desktop recording or base recording would work. So likewise, let's say you want to perform activities on our window now. Let me go to my home page first and then start recording. So I want to open a text file. Let's open short text data. Opening this, then clicking here and typing, and using a hotkey like control. Where is control? Control A to clear everything. There is no control, but let's just type something. Hello. Let's try to, select everything now. Or you can empty the field first, then type again.
So is this the basic?
The basic works and work outside your browser, work with any application. And working, working with our notepad in this case. Once we are done, we can escape, then save and record. And likewise, again, create a sequence. Click list item, type. But as you can see now, there is no container. If you look at the web browser, for example, or the web recorder, for example, now, it's created a container, the attached browser container. And if you remember what we said earlier in our explanations, that basically does not create container. So you can see that it's just a normal sequence. This basic is actually not a container, it's a sequence of activities. It's a sequence from the sign you can see here. So let's move on with scenario for today. Selectors. Selectors are an important part of UI automations. Selectors allow us to identify specific UI elements to work with in the process of making automations. So now selectors they're required to interact with various windows, buttons, drop-down lists, and other elements that we would like to perform actions on with our machine. So with this in mind, you can see that UiPath at the selector rather is a store of the attributes of a graphical user interface element and its parents for improved accuracy. And when it is tasks or activities automated and user needs to communicate with various UI elements, the selector is a specific identifier to find the UI element among multiple applications. You can see this definition. This is a definition of selector. It's an identifier that we use to find a UI element among multiple applications. So it helps us to locate a specific element that we want to use or perform an action on among all other applications that might be open at that point in time. So now UiPath has some tools also for accessing selectors or for editing selectors and their attributes. Those two tools are the selector editor and then the UI Explorer. UI Explorer and selector editor. The selector editor allows us to see automatically generated selectors. So when we create activities in our recorders, for example, in a basic or desktop or web even, we can see those specific selectors or those specific selectors on the selector editor. Then we can make changes to their attributes. So let's look at how that will be done. So look at this activity, for example. Once we click on click on the hamburger icon, we can see this edit selector. Clicking that will take us to the selector editor, so you can see the name here, selector editor. Selector editor has some parts. So we have this validate button. Validate tells us when our selector is valid or when selector is invalid. So when it's red and you have an X, you can imply that would be invalid. Then when it's green, it can. So let's look at something that will make it green. So when it's green now, that means the selector is valid. So the button can also be yellow. So the button has 3 states: green, red, and yellow. So a green is valid, red is invalid, and the yellow means you have made a change to selector. So you have changed an attribute, or you have changed selector, and then you can revalidate it again, so that you can check if it's going to work. So let me put this so you can see that it's yellow now, because I made a change here. Excuse me. Yellow means you can revalidate to confirm whether our selector will still work. So clicking on yellow now will change it to either red or green, and there is no red and green means. Apart from the validate button, we have an indicate element button again that would allow us to select an element and then view its selector. So if I select this line, for example, I can then see selector that corresponds to that element. Likewise, there's a repair button. Repair button works when element is invalid. So it's UiPath suggests the best steps, or suggests some steps to fixing the selector and making it valid. Next, we have the highlights, and the highlight button shows us what element this selector corresponds to. So by highlight, I can see that this is what the selector is showing us. You can see it marked up in red. So the highlight button shows us what element the selector corresponds to. So selectors have paths. So look at the validate, indicate, repair, highlights, and we see the meaning. Yeah. Then there's an activity for everyone to perform that. We can do that to free time. The selectors have some attributes, or they have some properties. Now they have some components or properties that are created when a selector has been generated or edited. And these properties are attributes and tags. Now attribute as well as we could. Let's go back to selector editor. Let's check this. Attributes are basically I put this. Attributes are values or not really containers. Attributes are, looking for a word. Attributes are, let's just call them elements or parts of a selector that hold values. So you can think of the way a variable would hold a value in our design, in our process. Now, an attribute would hold a value in a selector. So take, for example, this selector we have here. You can see this AA name is equal to signing. Now, AA name is an attribute that is holding the value signing. Likewise, you have tag that's holding the value A, and then app is holding the value chrome.exe. And the second part of the selector is the tag. And this tag is basically a descriptor. It describes what type of elements you are working on, or what type of elements that part of those attributes are describing. So the tags are usually not paired with an equal to sign, so they don't hold value. You just describe what the attributes are working on, or what the attributes belong to. So now take, for example, this selector again. We have two tags there now. We have the HTML tag. That means it's working on an HTML element. And then we have the web CTR tag. That is a web page control element. So all selectors you see would have these two components. And I think you would do well to recognize the differences between tags and attributes, because that's something they can test you on in your exams. Okay, now, so continuing with PDF. So there are two types of selectors, or there are two general types of selectors. They have full selectors and partial selectors, and they differentiate in the following ways. So full selectors contain all the elements needed to identify your elements, including top level window. So that means full selectors will contain all the necessary tags and attributes that you can use to identify an element in a process or in a group of UI elements. Our partial selectors don't contain information about the top level window, and thus they must be used in containers to. Remember, containers specify what application we are working with. So it would need that feature of containers to allow partial selectors work very well. Next, we generate full selectors from the basic recorder, while the desktop recorder generates partial selectors. And then lastly, full selectors are best suited when actions performed require switching between multiple windows, while partial selectors are best suited for performing multiple actions in the same window. And so let's now go back to our selector editor. And let me do something. Let's look at this. We have this selector here. Let me copy. I want to copy it out so we can. This is one selector, and then if I go back to this and look at this selector. I need to copy it actually. So looking at our screen, you can see two selectors. You can see the first one that has how many tags, has 4 tags, and numerous attributes as WND, CTRA, or CTRA. This one has just one tag. Now, this first one has a full selector because it tells us what the top level window is. And what that means is that it tells us what app you are working with. You can see that on the first line, which is the node, which is the root or node, which is the root now. This root is telling us what we are working on. So once we have this in our selector, we know that it's a full selector. Then we have other ones which also gives us more information, but then are not as important in the differentiation between the two as this. Then for the partial selector now, we can see that there is no there's no top level tag, right? There's no tag that tells us what app you're working with. You just see that it's a web control, it's a web page control element that has a tag of, so that's an attribute of tag that has host button and other attributes that it may have. So that's one of the differences in the two general selector types, and that's how we can identify selectors and group them based on what type of selector they are and how they will be used. Okay, so we looked at this. I think we've discussed all this before. Selectors, how they are generated, and what to use. Now on partial selector, must be enclosed in containers to work. Yeah, let's look at hello.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Hi.
Yes, sir.
All right. So we looked at whether we said earlier that selectors require containers to work. So let's dive deeper into why they require containers and what sort of advantages, if there are any, that would provide for partial selectors or using partial selectors. Now, the containers help when we are working on two instances of the same application. That is, when we are working with two situations or two of the same app. So let's say we're working on two browsers. You open our Chrome browser twice. These containers and partial selectors would allow us to easily specify what application should perform what action. So there won't be any mix-up, or there won't be any potential error in working by maybe a process running on the wrong browser and causing interference with another process. Likewise, it helps us visually group activities that work together in the same application. So a container, remember that it compiles all activities that works on a window into one box. So we can And that helps us with making our code easier to visualize and easier to work with, because now we can easily identify what activities are what. Therefore, it helps us, it makes it easier for us to manage top level selectors, because we don't have to constantly change it to suit what particular app you're working on. So that this advantage ties in with the first advantage, where I said it helps us when working on 2 instances of the same application. If you're working with full selector in this case, now you would have to edit the top level selectors so that they would not match and cause disruption. But when you're working with a container, UiPath automatically differentiates between the two, and just allowing us to manage those top level selectors easier. And lastly, they are faster than full selectors. And that can be explained also because of the fact that they're in the same container, so they seamlessly transition from one point to the other without having to locate the necessary or the window in question at every point in time, and then before performing whatever action we want to perform. Okay, now we've seen the two general types of selectors we have in UiPath Studio. But then there's another type of selector we have, which is called a dynamic selector. Now, when we say something is dynamic, it means that it's not constant, not static. It can change. Now, a useful feature when we are creating UI interactions is to create a selector that will be able to change based on different situations. So we would like to do that, and I think that's a useful feature that RPA developers like to use. And then to be able to access those elements or to be able to make those changes in selectors based on whatever situation that they would occur, developers have to use what we call dynamic selectors. Now, these selectors are used to find the address of a UI element dynamically and identify the attributes of the elements across windows. A key feature of these type of selectors are they use variables or arguments as a property for the attribute of the target tag. So if we go back to
we can't hear you well.
Your voice went down now.
Okay. So I said dynamic selectors allow us to identify UI elements dynamically based on whatever predefined situation we want to do. I said it's a useful feature that developers like to use in their automations and working on Windows or working on new elements that are due to or that could change. So say, for example, we want to click on something only when it is color. When click on a button only when it's red. We can do these things by creating dynamic selectors that would then have the capability of helping the robot select the right thing at the right point in time. And now a key feature or a key component of a dynamic selector is that it uses a variable or an argument as a property for the attribute of a target tag. So if we go back to our selector editor, when we want to make our selector dynamic, what we do or what we can do is that we would then change our attribute value. So we have this attribute tag that's equal to button. To make it dynamic, you would create a variable here. So we can Control K. Let me clear the last tag. So now we can right click. Control K. Okay. Okay, so to do that now, we would first of all put two curly braces, then type in the attributes or type in the variable we want to.
Sorry, sir, please, what are we doing? Are we
Trying to now make this our selector dynamic. Remember, I said the key feature of a dynamic selector is that it has variables or arguments in it that would specify, what value to give an attribute at any point in time. Okay. So now for us to have a dynamic selector now, we'd have to create a variable here. So we can do that by, first of all, let me start from scratch again. Let's open our selector editor, and then now let's make this selector dynamic by changing this button into a variable. So we can click the button, then press our Control K to create a variable, and we can give it a name. Let's call it variable or vary, and then give the default value we want, and then confirm. So you can see that is a dynamic selector right there, because we have this variable in it. Another way of doing that is that we can also, instead of doing Control K, we can also just put two double curly braces, and then type in our variable name. We can call it something like password. Sorry, my two curly braces. Type in password curly braces. So that would also create a variable and make this selector dynamic. You can see the format of it. Another feature is that it allows for easy identification of a target element based on the value of the variable or argument. So you can easily select whatever element you want to select or use based on what value that holds. And then it's best suited for situations in which the target element constantly changes value. That it's constantly changing, we can also change our selector to match it every time. So that's the whole dynamism part of it. So I think that's about sector for now. I think it's 8:45 now, so it's time for our break. And I think I told everyone beginning of the class that we will be having a 10 minutes test after our break. So you guys can go and then come back by 9 o'clock and have the test on the LMS. So I will show you guys where to access the tests on the LMS. Okay.
Yes, sure.
okay? Thank you, sir.
Please, what's the scope of the test?
So the test is is what we have done so far. So I think it will be on already last week. So that would be automation concept. Automation concept. All right.
Sir, can you take questions?
Sure, why not?
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Daniel.
Yes, sir. Okay. The automation regarding the containers, I run it successfully and it came out well. But then I want to ask, the idea behind using these container or the recording rather to run this automation, because I noticed after we use our input dialog, we use the username and password. Now, after running the automation, it prompted us to put in a username and then a password before it opened in the website, UiPath website, and then we were logged in officially. So now, if we are running this in a real life situation, what real life experience can we use to what's the best way to put this now? As this automation, we're running it in real life. What's the best way to apply it in real
Okay,
life?
I think you mean how would we create an automation like this that would, I'm just trying to grasp your question. How would we create automation such that we can use it in a work or real life scenario?
Exactly, because I mean, one can easily just log into the UiPath website, put in the username and password, and voila, you're there.
Well, that was just a basic activity that we performed with this what's it called? This example. Now you can use these recordings. Or before I even go into that, firstly, if we remember how or what properties a process needs to have before you can apply RPA to it, before it becomes RPA deployable, RPA applicable. It has to be repetitive and has to be voluminous and rule based. So now these things we can perform simple tasks into it, but then when you want to perform those tasks over and over, so imagine you want to like click on multiple, we have a database now, you want to check the value of 20 things in the database that will maybe involve clicking on a button, but click on a button, and something will pop up, then copy that information, and then click on the next button again, and make the next will pop up. So imagine that, okay, fine, we can create that first one easily with the recording. So it's a very basic task. But then the beauty or the place where RPA now comes in as a whole is that with that first basic task I just did, but now automate it more, performing 1,000 tasks in that same format. So even though it's something that the beauty of RPA comes in is that we cannot perform that basic thing multiple times over and over. without having a human to perform that mundane task. Human can focus on more important things. I don't know if you answered the question.
I understand that. Thank you.
All right, Daniel.
Hello, sir.
Hello, Colin.
Good evening, sir.
Evening.
So you talked about, I was asking a question about the selector part. You just did.
Yep.
Concerning the full and partial selectors, when you said we can make our selectors dynamic.
Huh?
So when you said we can make our how to make our selectors dynamic.
Yeah, I'm following.
Yes, I watched you. You only you clicked on the button. There's a particular part you click on button before you typed in password. I don't know if there's a situation where we can change other things apart from button, because what I saw is button and you typed in password and replaced.
Can change
password.
Attributes. Remember,
attributes. Okay.
No attributes are right now. Those are like containers or containers that hold information that about the selector, about the UI element.
Okay.
So now look at this selector, and I see we have this attribute, role, name, CL. So you can change any attribute you want. You can change this data variable, change it. But you can only change attribute values now to variables. You can't change the attribute itself to a variable. And you can't change the tag. So as much as we need to change, because it doesn't have to be a button. You can change submit now. You want to change it. If you think that in the automation, that attribute will change over the course of the running of the process.
Okay.
So change that and then make that a variable.
Okay. So for example, now in this one, this submit is an attribute, I guess.
Type is the attribute. Submit is the value.
The value. Okay. Type is an attribute. Okay. So we can what can we change this type to make it a dynamic selector? Make it dynamic. Sorry.
So change the value submit to a variable.
Okay. The values that make the variable.
Make it a variable or put a variable. Let's make that selector dynamic. So it will work based on the value of or the value that is held in the variable we created at that point in time.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Right.
Are you still there, sir?
Hello, sir.
Hello, George.
Yeah, I think we are getting it under selector, right?
Under automation concepts and techniques. So let me navigate to page so everyone can see it. Just refresh. So this is it. You see this pop quiz in there.
Okay. But I can't see anything there yet.
So refresh your browser.
Okay, okay.
So the test will open by 9 what's it called? 9 p.m. and then to last for 10 minutes. So it's close by 10 minutes past 9. So everyone should prepare themselves. So it's 9 o'clock. So I think the test should open now. So you can access it. So, all right, guys.
Hello, good evening, sir.
Good evening, Luke.
Yes, sir. How are you doing today, sir? Thank you, sir, for this for this training. I'm really grateful, sir. I was the one that I spoke to you the last time that I was not really feeling fine. I don't know if you saw my message.
Oh, because I've not gone through my mail since Friday.
Okay. So, like, and I missed the test, and even in fact, coming now, I'm seeing that we have gone far.
Well, yes, we have gone far. Yes, indeed. Gone far.
But, sir,
So
like
we
the
now have
video of,
the video
but the video is
not on YouTube yet, and I keep
okay.
told person to upload the video there. So it should be there.
Okay, so I can check on the LMS. I can see the video there.
Hello, sir. Good evening, sir. This is Candy, sir.
Okay.
Hello? So yes, look, you can check video.
Sir, like about the test. Okay.
I'm not hearing you. Good evening. Good evening. Is this Shay? What about Shay?
Yes, sir. Good evening, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, please, I have a question.
Okay, ask away.
So, all right. The selector. How did you get the page of that selector? I know I was following, and at the point I got lost. I was not sure how to go to that selector again. So I started editing, and I started seeing some red, yellow. Red, yellow, and the green. But I don't know how we got to that page where you started editing all those things.
Okay. So there is your, what's it called now? On your activity. So take for instance, this click activity. See, you see 3 bars. These 3 bars.
Your voice is breaking. I can hardly hear you, sir.
So what is also
3 bars. I can't see any 3 bars. So.
on the activity? You can't see my screen.
I can't see your screen.
It is your network.
I'm only seeing the page that contains the list of those in the group, those in these chats.
Sir, I can see your screen, sir. Your screen is showing you.
So I think it's your network. I'm sure my screen. I'm showing the 3 bars that you.
I can see your screen.
Yeah. So see those 3 bars when my mouse is on.
Is it?
Click on it.
I can
What?
I can't see the 3 bars.
You can't see my mouse.
No.
Not see my mouse.
Okay, yeah, I can see the mouse.
Okay then.
But how did you get to this click first and all these things?
The activity has been there, so I created the activity. I just created the activity. Selector. We use our recorder to do all this.
Seems lost. Because I just started from beginning actually. I joined in the middle of the class. No problem. Maybe I would ask from those on the group. Thank you very much.
But what we did, we used our recorder. So we had our recording. We looked at recording in the day class. So we use our recorder to create those activities. But then you can take, for example, create a type into activity. I think you can create a type into activity.
Yeah, I can create a type into activity.
But then you should see that those 3 bars when you create type into activity. You get.
Okay.
Hello, sir. Sir, like, are we on break? Because the one that nobody is talking.
Yeah, we're having a test on the LMS.
A test.
Yes, a test. I announced it before we went on break.
Oh my God. I didn't know. Like, sir, what am I going to do like this now? I didn't know of a test. Like, so we're having a test right now.
The test has ended.
Yep, it just ended. The test just ended.
Oh my God. Jesus.
Look, when you hear now, when I announced that test on the LMS, and
Why won't I allow to preview the result of the test?
The result will show.
It's sure after you are done. Sure.
Sir?
It didn't show. It didn't show, sir.
It not show. Okay, let me.
Mine is showing.
It says you are not allowed to preview. That's what it's telling me. And I've submitted.
Let me look at that.
Sir, like, can I do this test that I did, or is it last week test? So I don't.
This test has ended already. So.
Myself, I was not aware. What do we do? What can we do, sir? Hello, sir.
What you can do is come for tomorrow's test. As I said,
Sir, where can we find the test, please? On the LMS, where can we actually find the test? Because I didn't see it.
This test now, as I announced before the test, I told them where they will get it. So this test was located under automation concepts and techniques. It won't always be here.
Under where?
The test won't always be in one place. So I would tell you where the test is going to be, under what topic it's going to be on. So I can't just tell you, look here every time for the test. You would need to, I guess you need to be here when I'm announcing the test location.
I was actually here, but I didn't see the test on the LMS. I
try
didn't see it.
You try refreshing. You try refreshing your browser.
Let me just see it.
So I think, well, for those who did the test, if you go to review now, see your score. That's what you want to do. Review your scores now.
Like, your voice is low.
We can't hear you. Your voice is breaking up. You said those who did the test. So what happened?
Yeah, for those who did the test, you can now review your scores. I think some said they could not see their score, so I have changed something that will allow you to see your score.
Want us to share our screen?
No, don't share. I don't share screen. For you and you again.
Yeah, yes.
But nobody needs to know your score. But if I'm to share a score, I can share a score for everyone to see if that's what all of you want.
Oh, I mean.
So please, I have a question.
Please don't share score.
Please,
I have a question.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I was hoping the test. Sorry, let me mute myself on my laptop. Okay, so I was hoping all the tests that we've been writing. I was hoping all the tests we've been writing. Is there a way we could go back and review and see what we failed and try to practice more? Because I found out that after taking the test, I think we may not be able to locate them again, like review maybe the ones we failed so that we could learn from them.
So, okay, I get. You could not review. You could not locate test again. Oh yeah.
Not really about locating
They
them.
not open it.
Because they said it's a one-time something, and once it's done, I don't know.
Okay, yeah. So can open it for what's it called, for reviews. But then it won't show you the correct answer. That's so you know. Just show you what you missed. So it's up to you to go and read your book and look at the correct answer. Look for the correct answer. And then
But sir, it help us know where we went wrong.
Mine showed the correct answers.
Not just after writing the exam, consequent times.
Okay.
Sir.
All right, so I have a question, sir.
Who is talking? Is it Luke or Cheese or Daniel?
Daniel Chisusa.
Okay, Daniel.
Yes. Okay, the question 3. I missed that one. It says here that the correct answer is that the process starts running on all machines that are provisioned in Orchestrator, and we are selected for the job. Now, does it mean that if I am logged in 5 different machines, these processes will be running in all of these machines? Or how can this be explained?
If you have 5 licenses, as I say, if you have provision for 5 machines,
Please, can we mute?
You can run that process on those 5 machines. So you can run on all of them, or you can run on just one. What's the question exactly? Read the question to me and not just the option.
Okay, the question says, what happens if a process is started from an on-premise UiPath orchestrator?
Oh, okay. So one on-premises UiPath orchestrator. Yeah. So it means that all the machines that you have created in that, or that are provisioned in that, let's say, workspace. So in that machine or on that account, I can run that process.
Okay. Is it so far as the machines are turned on, or even while they are off, it can still be run on the background?
So they have to be turned. They won't work if they're off. They have to be on. I mean, you can run in the background like this. If you remember, I talked about foreground and background, so that is something totally different. Machines have to be active.
Okay.
Perform those processes.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Right. So now that we have all had time to do our test. For the test, I saw 19 attempts out of 32 people in class. So the 13 people who did not do the test, what happened? What happened? I know some people did not, some said they could not locate it. Some people said some people just joining. So yes, for subsequent tests, you guys will need to please, let's say, be here on time. Please be here, because the times I announce the tests will not be constant. There will be changes from day to day, so you can't just say just one specific time that you're having the test. So you need to be in class to do the test and spit.
Sir,
For
I noticed that because the question that some of the questions that some people were mentioning here, I didn't answer those questions. So it seems the questions are different.
Different.
Oh, okay. Actually, sir, those questions actually got me.
So it's just something you get it. And that is better. It's better the questions get you here and they get you in the main exam. Or you say okay.
Yeah, so
the questions are just really tough.
Some of the questions were
very
very strange.
It's as if the more you
there are
read
like
it,
two
the
data
more
manipulation in my own questions. Though I know them, but I think I just like banana.
Some manipulation.
Yeah, so I've got splits. I've got which other one? Actually, there are things I should get because I've checked it there, but then yes, I've got substring with dots, trim, blah blah blah. I have to be calculating with my pen and paper.
It's fine. Just at least you know new things. You don't know what you don't know. That I've seen it. So,
yeah, it's actually nice.
It's good. It's just as I said, it's just to keep you guys in tip-top shape for when the time comes for extra gaming exam. So keep you on your toes, keep you refreshed, keep you abreast of how it come out.
Exactly.
But even if you feel like you quote and unquote you failed, I mean there's no failure at this point in time. It's all practice. So it's good. It's learning experience. All right, so let's continue with our class for we call it a day. We have just 40 minutes left or 39 minutes left before we finish for today. Okay, so we've looked at dynamic selectors, looked at how to create dynamic selectors. Okay, and let's just read this example. For a calendar on a web page, the user wants to click a specific date. To do this, the user can use the dynamic selector because there's a difference in the location of that particular date. Due to which selector activities may change. So a few changes are required in the attributes to make the selectors of the date to be clicked as dynamic. So you can see a use case here now for a dynamic selector. In the case of a calendar, when you want to click a particular date, you know that, days change, the calendar changes daily. So to know what date, or to know what position of the date will be, we need to make our selector dynamic so it can move, or it can change as the days change in real life. So that's a real time application of dynamic selectors. And you can use it in other aspects of the automations too, not just in calendars. Now another thing you can use to make a selector dynamic is what we call wildcards. And a wildcard is a special character that can replace the dynamic part of the selector. So that means you can use a wildcard to replace a variable now. Remember I said what makes a selector dynamic is that we created a variable and placed it as a value for an attribute. And we can replace that whole variable now with just one character or just one of the two special characters that UiPath has provisioned. And the two characters are your asterisk as your star, and then your question mark. So asterisk replaces 0 or more characters. So that means when you have an asterisk can stand for this part. Asterisk can stand for many things. It can stand for nothing. It can stand for something like my name. It can stand for something as short as just the number 2. So the asterisk replaces 0 or more characters, while the question mark places exactly one character. So it can only stand for one thing. It can stand for maybe letter T, or it can stand for something like number 4. So that we can replace. We can look at this now. Look at this letter we have here now. We might say, for example, want to replace this whole value with just 1 star. That means whatever the value of the name attribute is on the selector, this selector will be valid for it. Did you all get that? Do you understand what I meant or what I mean there?
Not really, sir.
Okay, so for the asterisk now, I said it can replace 0 or more characters. So I give examples like it can replace just empty space, can replace a full name, or just a number, or just even a single letter. Now remember, in the whole dynamism of a selector is being able to change attribute values based on whatever situation we will need them to be applicable in. And that works now based on having predefined values. So you might take, for example, a calendar. And the calendar has a set number of dates, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, up until 31, depending on the month. Now you might set our variable to have those values. So those are predefined. But now in cases where we don't know what value will be there or value can possibly be there. So take a name, for example. To be almost impossible to predict the number of names you have in the world. So you can't just create a variable to hold names. Now what you can do, you use an asterisk. Asterisk now we just put our star there, and no matter what name we put, even if it's my name, if it's your name, if it's Benga, if it's Daniel, if it's Sam, that vector will still be valid, regardless of the name you put. So with a star now, you can put any value for your attributes and it will be valid. Does that make more sense? Now, need the response. Does that make more sense? Why I continue?
Yes, it does.
Yes, sir.
Then for the question mark. So likewise with an asterisk, how an asterisk replaces everything now. Now a question mark just replaces one character, but then it can be any value. So it can be T, 4, Z, it can even be a colon, semicolon. So now if you want to, let's take this desktop now, for example. So now desktop has how many letters? Has 7 characters. So to replace desktop with question marks, you would need to put 7 question marks. Now what this one now means is that any 7-letter word can be applicable for this selector in that attribute field. So you can, even if we have something like tank top, which is, it's not exactly, but it's 7 letters. So if we have that, it will still apply because the question marks tell us that any value that is 7 characters long would be an appropriate value or would be a usable value for the selector. Does that make sense too? Okay, I'll take that as a yes. So now let's do this example to help us understand the whole point of wildcards in selectors. Example says we should open our notepad file, create a new sequence, file name, add an annotation, use an attach window to indicate the notepad file that is open, indicate the container, send hotkey. Let's all do this on our UiPath Studios. I'll clear mine. Let's open a new sequence and let's name it cloud cards and in sequence. Then you want to add an annotation, so that's like an extra comment on the extra information on the code that would help you maybe in the future or help someone else that wants to use your code. You can say this sequence constraints how to use a card in a selector. All right. Now our first activity is you want to use an attach window. Let's use attach window. Then indicate our window on screen. Let's pause our screen, then locate Notepad. This is my window. And the next step is to send a hotkey in the order Control plus H to replace within the one. So use send hotkey first of all. With my studio, going to send hotkey. I'm going to use Control and H. Okay. Then we're indicating it in our Notepad also. Set our hotkey. And the next thing we want to do is use type into activities. One for the first field, 2 spaces, 2 spaces. I think actually as a little experience, let's build that with the desktop recorder, so you can combine the best of 2 worlds. So let me build mine with the desktop recorder. You can do yours. You can do yours whatever way you want. That's my app. Starts my Notepad. So start app, no argument. So. And the next thing you want to do is record. Record saves send hotkey. Type into send hotkey Control H. All right. So now to record my steps here. And I want to send hotkey. I would press Control CTRL Alt up down left window right control. Okay. Where's my control leading? Control H done. Control H, so that's my Control H. Next thing I want to do is type into activities. So I'll type into this, find what's in the first space. You want to find space and then replace it with double space. And next step is open the second notepad, run the workflow file, then click on the replace all. Yeah. Sorry. Then close. After you place all, then close. Then that will be all. I'll save it. You can see I have done 2 steps with this. They have created unnecessary activities. Now decide for the open the second notepad file and run the workflow. It will return cannot find element error. Run this. It's taking 30 seconds to throw the error. So you can see the error says could not find the elements. Now, to fix that, we said we should open the selector for the attached window container. So let's open our selector for this. Attached window container is this. Attached window, let's open our selector editor. And then you can see that it's not valid. Not valid. It's not valid because it has this title. So that means it can only work on Windows where we have title that has a title of replace. Now, if you want to make it work for any workflow, now any any notepad, it will just change replace to wildcard. So this wildcard stands for any. Okay, now let's do that again. Edit selector. So you can see that it has the title now, data.txt, notepad. Now to make sure it works for any what's it called, any notepad file, you can change this whole thing to an asterisk. So we validate it. Let's check if it's going to work now. You can see that it's valid because this star can now hold any what's it called, any value. If I close it in, and ideally when we close our notepad and use an attachment window, remember I should try an error because it's not going to find this thing, but because we are opening a new one now, we can then use that dynamism of the selector to make sure that we indeed perform those actions and we don't throw an error. Taking too much time. I want to do something. Okay. Get on screen. So I want data. And then I want to change this one to work with data. I can delete this. So if I run the file first time, I should run type into, oh, still taking time. Selector. So I seem to have run into an error with that whole recording. Selector. Okay. So now that I have fixed it, you should see that. Run it again now. Run with this exact file open. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just, let's do this all over. Patch window, don't mind the patch window. So while I'm doing my, has anyone finished? Are you all waiting for me to finish first? Hello?
Yeah, I guess we are just following you. Yeah, it's quite important.
Okay, so I'm starting over again now. So the first step was attach window, attach my window, and I use this file. Next thing is hotkey. So let's Control H.
Does the text in the notepad, should it be specific or can it be any
text you want, any text you have, any notepad you have. So Control H, done that. Next step is to type into. So let's type into now. Typing into the same window, or not the same window in this case. You want to type into this window.
So after Control H, you don't put enter. You don't enter.
Because we are sending hotkeys now, don't need enter. Remember, if I go back to my notepad, when I press Control H, this happens. I don't have to press enter.
Okay.
That's why we're not pressing enter. Now the next step is type into. So let's type into those two boxes. So for the first one, there you should type. For the first one, put define dots. First one, let's put space. So put space, then put another type into for the second one. Indicate again, so replace with put double space. We are converting spaces to double space. And the next thing is to click on replace all. So we are clicking on replace all. And then we are clicking on close. So that should be that. Open the selector for the attach window container. So open this selector. And then I did this. So remember I said it has a title. So that means it can only work for any notepad that has this title. And we can put that
make it run for all.
Sorry?
So you say you can make it run for all by changing it to all. Star.
Changing that to star. So if you open this notepad Romeo and try to run it, you should get an error quickly. So error could not find this process match was Romeo. Now to fix that, you will just change that data.txt, or you can change out the data now, because that's what really changes. Nothing else really changes now. Validate, so it's still valid. Then okay, you see that if we run this now, we should run for the Romeo that is open. So you can see that it's running. We just converted all the single spaces to double spaces. So that's how the star wildcard works. Any number of, or any name now, any file name, any notepad that's open that with any name can use this selector and perform these processes. And likewise, we can also do that with the wild and with the question mark. I remember I said that one is character specific. So if you want to replace something that has 4 letters, we need to put four question marks and so on and so forth, depending on whatever you need to do. So I think at this point I would let's wrap up for today. From tomorrow we'll look at the UI, the second tool that UiPath provides to work with selectors, which is the UI Explorer. We'll look at that tomorrow. Then I guess we look at the rest of this slide, and then move on to our next topic, which is data manipulation. All right. So I hope everyone was able to, for those who were the laptops, able to build along and follow to the next step. Yeah, to an extent, even though I know
I was following. I wasn't following.
you were not following. Why is that, Robert?
I failed to understand how exactly we're meant to execute this, because I noticed at some point you use the designer, the desktop recorder.
Yeah, I used that first, but then I did
Then
not. Then I went back. I was causing too much thing for the work we want to do, so I just did the activities one by one. I used an attach window and then type into activities and click activities.
I tried running it, but it ran. I will not even say it gave an error. It ran without giving an error.
And then you're fine. All right. So what was the issue there?
I thought it was supposed to give an error.
Oh, so what did you open a different close that previous one, then try to run it. You get to that. Remember I said your touch window, your file to be open. So
yeah.
the error you want to get is the error of when it can't get the file it wants to use. To open a different file, close your initial one, and run it again. Then you get an error, which would fix by changing the selector.
It's okay, good
So
boy.
before
Sleep. Yeah, we read already.
The second notepad, I have to close the first one.
Yes, close the first one.
Then in the typing activity, I don't type in anything because I don't understand.
Oh, you said type double space and space. Because so now what I did was I replaced all the single spaces with double space. I found all, so when you type Ctrl H in your notepad, you would go to that find and replace wizard. So I typed in the single space to find all single spaces, then replace with double spaces, then replace all. So you just meant to reproduce those actions in your UiPath Studio with type into here, then click.
I execute all these actions now first on the notepad.
No, you don't execute them, you reproduce those actions in UiPath Studio. So for the first one, create a type into and type what you want to find. Then type into again what you want to replace it with. Then click. So you're using two type into and two click activities.
Okay. I'll try and run it again. I'll try.
All right. So I guess there are no more questions.
Sorry, speaking about UI Explorer, the quiz you gave us said it was going to be based on what we've done. So I'm wondering why I was saying a question on UI Explorer.
UI Explorer.
Yeah, I answered the question on UI Explorer. I had to guess.
Oh well, it was meant to be based on what we've done in automation and selectors. So I guess, and because it was random, so I guess that might happen from time to time. And then what should I say? I'll look at it and then subsequent tests.
Okay.
Really be based on that, what you've done so far. Is that okay with you, Sam?
Very much so.
Yeah, right. Then let's call it a day. Thank you all for changing the plan. Have a nice night rest. We'll meet again tomorrow. Be more refreshed than now. All right, so good night, guys.
Thank you, sir. But sir, before you go, can you take one question?
Okay, what's your question?
Okay. The typing activity you used for you sent to the hotkey control H.
Yeah, I
It's
didn't use I didn't use type into for that. I used send hotkey.
You use what, sir?
Send or hotkey. So go to your activities and just type hotkey. You should see a send hotkey activity there.
Yes, I use that. Then after that,
Okay. Then after I typed into the two fields in the find and replace box.
okay.
So after sending a hotkey to get that box, you type into the two resulting fields that will come up. Then you click find all and then click on close. So replace all, not find or replace all. Then click on close. Does that make sense, Daniel?
Yes, it does. All right. Try it now.
So I was saying good night, guys. We'll see you tomorrow. I'll put the link.
Sorry, sir.
What? Yep.
It's Ebenezer, sir.
Okay, Ebenezer.
I sent you an email, like I said earlier. I'm waiting for your reply so I can know what action to take next.
Okay.
So I'll be waiting.
I'll look at it. I'll look at it after the class.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Good night, sir.
Okay, good night. So good night, everyone.
Good night, sir. See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow. Good night.
Thank you.